There is a moment, you probably know it, where you add something to a cart you were never looking for. You didn't plan it, you don't especially need it, and yet something in you has already decided. The question isn't whether that happens, the question is what exactly is doing the deciding. The standard story goes like this. Some people are just bad with money. They lack discipline, they're impulsive by nature, or they grew up without financial literacy, or they've been seduced by clever marketing. The solution then is obvious. Budget better, want less, exercise willpower. And there's a version of neuroscience that seems to confirm this. Brain imaging studies have shown that when people look at products they want, a region called the nucleus accumbens activates part of the brain's reward circuitry, sometimes called the pleasure center. When the price appears and feels too high, a different region, the insula, lights up, associated with discomfort, even pain. The decision to buy, by this account, is a tug of war. Desire pulling one direction, the pain of paying pulling the other. This framing is tidy. It maps onto the moral story we already tell about spending. Desire is weakness, restraint is virtue, and if your insula isn't loud enough, you'll empty your wallet. It also gave rise to an entire generation of neuromarketing. Companies mapping brain activation to predict what you'll buy before you know you'll buy it. The story isn't wrong, exactly, but it's incomplete in ways that matter. Here's the part that gets skipped in the popular version. The brain imaging findings, specifically the landmark 2007 study that established the nucleus accumbens/insula framework, were conducted under conditions that look almost nothing like how spending actually happens. Participants lay inside an fMRI scanner, viewed products on a screen, and were given a fixed amount of money to make decisions with. They weren't browsing, they weren't tired. They hadn't just seen 14 targeted ads. There was no social context, no identity signal, no one watching their choices. What the researchers measured was real. The neural activity was genuine. But the question worth sitting with is, what precisely did they measure? A brain responding to a product image in a controlled chamber is not the same thing as a brain navigating a Sunday afternoon on a retail website after a difficult week. The measurement trap here is significant. Brain activation in a single moment is a snapshot. It tells us something fired, but not why, not in what broader pattern, and not what that pattern means across a life of financial decisions. Calling nucleus accumbens activation desire and insula activation the pain of paying are interpretive labels, useful ones probably, but labels applied to a simplified situation, then extended to explain behavior in a far more complex one. There's a deeper issue. The dopamine system, which underlies much of this reward signaling, isn't simply a desire machine you either control or don't. The evidence from clinical research tells a more unsettling story. When patients with Parkinson's disease are treated with dopamine agonist medications, drugs that activate dopamine receptors, a meaningful subset of them develop impulse control disorders, compulsive gambling, compulsive buying, hypersexuality, behaviors that were entirely absent before the medication. Think about what that means. The behavior isn't explained by character, it's explained by chemistry. The same brain, different dopamine signaling, radically different choices. This doesn't mean willpower is irrelevant. It means willpower was never the primary mechanism to begin with. The Parkinson's research is worth staying with because it's some of the cleanest evidence we have that dopaminergic signaling directly shapes impulsive financial behavior, not just correlates with it. Multiple studies have documented that dopamine agonists trigger impulse control disorders in Parkinson's patients at rates far above the general population. Research published in Neurology India reviewed the epidemiology and found prevalence estimates ranging from 13 to 40% in patients on these medications. When the medication is discontinued or reduced, the behaviors often resolve. The brain, not the person's moral fiber, was driving the compulsion. Other research has looked at what happens in the brain specifically during cue exposure, the moment when a person sees something that triggers the urge to buy, gamble, or consume. Studies using p-imaging have shown that dopamine is released in the striatum, a region involved in reward anticipation, in response to cues alone, before any action is taken. The wanting precedes the choosing. In some cases, significantly. Hate scan with striatal region illuminated, warm amber against dark background. This maps onto what researchers studying non-substance addictive behaviors have described as cue reactivity. The phenomenon where environmental triggers, a notification, a storefront, a price drop alert, activate reward circuitry in ways that can override deliberate decision-making. The brain has essentially preloaded a response before the conscious mind has weighed in. The neuromarketing literature adds another layer. A 2016 study attempted to predict chocolate sales by measuring brain activation patterns in shoppers before purchase. They found that activity in reward-related regions at the point of sale predicted actual buying behavior, and that this predictive signal existed before participants had consciously deliberated. The brain had in some sense already voted. Retail shelf from a low angle, warm product lighting, subtle suggestion of decision pressure. But here is what this evidence does not prove. It does not prove that everyone who overspends has dysregulated dopamine in a clinical sense. It does not prove that the brain is a puppet and choices are illusions. And it certainly doesn't prove that understanding the mechanism automatically changes the behavior. Knowing what's happening in your striatum does not, by itself, quiet it. What it does establish is that the standard framing, impulsive spending as a failure of character or financial education, is missing the biology entirely. The cues matter, the timing matters, the neurochemical state you're in when you encounter a purchase decision matters. These are not excuses, they are variables, and variables can be worked with. So what does this actually mean for you? Not that you're off the hook, but that the hook is in a different place than you thought. If cue reactivity is part of what's driving impulsive spending, then the intervention point isn't at the moment of purchase, it's upstream. The question isn't why can't I resist this? The question is why am I encountering this trigger in the first place? And in what state? There's something the Stoics understood that neuroscience is now catching up to. Some things are in your control and some things aren't. The architecture of a retail website, the infinite scroll, the scarcity signals, the one-click purchase, is not in your control. What you do with your environment is. The distinction matters because conflating the two produces shame when what's actually needed is structure. The linguist angle is worth a moment here too. Notice the language people use around spending. I have no self-control. I can't help myself. I'm terrible with money. These aren't neutral descriptions. They're stories that locate the problem entirely inside the person, invisible to the systems that engineered the situation. Changing the sentence, even slightly, changes the frame. The environment made that purchase easy is a different starting point than I am weak. The financial implication is concrete. Your spending patterns are partly a readout of your neurochemical state, your cue environment, and the effort cost built into each transaction. Not entirely, but enough that designing your environment matters more than lecturing yourself. Here's the tension that doesn't resolve cleanly. The neuroscience suggests that impulsive buying is partly a product of biology and environment, not purely a character flaw, that should in theory reduce shame and increase clarity. But there's a risk in the other direction too. If the explanation becomes too deterministic, if my dopamine system did it becomes a permanent pass, then the insight has inverted into its own kind of trap. The honest answer is that we don't yet have a clean model for where biology ends and agency begins in financial decision-making. The research is genuinely suggestive, not conclusive. The Parkinson studies show chemistry can override character, but most people aren't on dopamine agonists. How much of everyday impulsive spending is neurochemically driven, and how much is simply habit, boredom, or a world optimized to extract money from inattention? That question isn't settled, and anyone who tells you it is, in either direction, is probably selling something. The research behind this video draws from Revue Neurologique, Neurology India, Frontiers in Behavioral Neuroscience, Journal of the Neurological Sciences, Brain, a Journal of Neurology, Neuron, Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience, Neuroimage. Every claim traces to a published source. Full citations are in the description below. If the way this channel thinks about neuroscience resonates with you, subscribing helps this work reach people who'd appreciate it. New videos on the science of mind every week.